Hello, my name is Lann, and today I'm going to be talking about how to get your first client. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, is getting your first client. I'm going to be talking about my experience on how I got my first client, the meeting, and lastly, closing. So that's really important, is the closing. So I'm going to be talking about how I got them, the meeting, and the closing. So let's start it out. My first client, I did not cold call. Actually, I did hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of cold calls with absolutely no success. It was pretty daunting. I actually got this client from a Facebook Messenger message. Actually, funny enough, I went on Facebook groups and I was really interested in real estate because, that's like the ultimate financial independent person's investment is real estate. And millions upon millions of people have made money based upon real estate. So I was like, why not start marketing for realtors? I thought that'd be really interesting and it would look great as a first client and great for my case study that I would make based upon the Facebook marketing budget that I use for the client. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So I sent probably about 50 messages to random realtors in my area, and I had one actually message me back and say, hey, I'm not interested. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then about 10 minutes later, they're like, okay, no, let's set up a meeting and let's talk about it. So I was like, okay. And he was local, so I was like, okay, let's do this. So I called him on the phone. I was like, hey, this is Chris. I wanted to get back in touch with you because you were interested, and let's set up a meeting. How does next week sound for us to talk about social media marketing? And he was great about it. He was like, that sounds amazing. Let's get it started. Let's move forward because I really want this done. I really want to try this out and start making money from it. So I was like, okay, that's great. So we set up a meeting, and that's part one. So the part one to think about is you don't always have to make cold calls. You don't have to make 10,000 cold calls and feel defeated and give up, because there's other methods of obtaining clients. So there's cold calling, there's direct messaging on social media platforms, there's postings, you can even go with Craigslist, LinkedIn's my favorite, to just message people directly and be able to get in touch with them automatically instead of waiting and going around gatekeepers and secretaries just to get to the business owners. You can directly contact them through LinkedIn. So I love that platform. But moving on, so the meeting is probably the hardest thing for a lot of beginners, especially. So at the meeting, you have to have three things to really get the client, get their attention, and speak the language of the business owner. So the three things are, you have to have confidence. So confidence is number one. You have to go in there knowing your product, in this case, it would be knowing the service, knowing your own service and how you can provide great, excellent, amazing service to your potential client. So you need to know your business, and you also need to know how this is going to help them. You have to speak their language. So to understand a businessman, you need to understand what they're looking for. And that's number two. That is ROI, which means return on investment. So for an example is, if he invests $1,000 into me, I am supposed to give him 3 to 4 times the value that he put into me. So if he gave me $1,000, I'm supposed to make him $3,000 to $4,000 in return. So if we were talking about real estate, I'd have to only sell him one house, and he would get a return on investment, which is great for him. And great for me because that means more money he can invest in me. So that's ROI, and he wants results. He wants results right away. So, little hard with social media, but if you get 30 days, then you can give him the results he needs. So results and ROI is what he's looking for. So that's number two. Number three is you have to remain calm and focused during the whole meeting, which means you have to make him talk. So it's not really about you talking and explaining yourself. You need to not talk that much at all. Your goal is to talk the least and let him talk the most. Now, don't let him take over the conversation, but let him talk and let him get his sense in. So during my client meeting, I barely talked, honestly. I told him how I could help on Facebook. We exchanged some terminology he understood, And then he kept talking for about 10 to 15 minutes. And it helped a lot. He was allowed to talk, get his voice out, how he felt about it, his concerns, his experiences were pretty bad with Facebook marketing. So it was kind of hard to turn him and be like, hey, it's okay. I'm good at this. I can help you. And at the time, he's my first client, but you have to stay confident. Even if you have no case studies, no results, you have to stay confident. Because if you even are a little bit insecure with how you feel about your services, so for instance, if I said, okay, my services are going to be $1,000, is that okay? That's not confident. That's you being weak with how you feel about your services. Now, difference between saying it like that and saying it like this. It's going to be $2,000 for my services, and this is the value I can give you is 50% more in returns in sales and more clients based upon my value price that I just gave you. Now, which one's more confident? Me stuttering over the $1,000 or me demanding more money and demanding my value to you based upon what I can bring to you? So you have to build that confidence, and that takes time too. I mean, I was horrible. That's exactly what I did in a couple meetings. I stuttered over the $1,000 words, and now I'm dropping 3,000, 4,000, and that's how you're supposed to be because your value matters, especially in the meeting. So that's what you have to give across. So those are the things that you need to work on when you're going into a meeting. You have to be confident no matter what. You have to talk the lingo of the business owner. And lastly, you have to stay focused during the meeting. And those are the biggest things you can do to make the meeting go out amazing, and that's how you close clients, is staying confident, learning the lingo, and just staying focused. So after we get done with the meeting, we signed a contract because he wanted to test it out, so we didn't go to the thousands, 5,000, 10,000. He was my first client, so I was like, let's get it started. I want a case study. I'll pay for it. That's fine. I didn't pay for it, but he paid for it. So he paid me $500, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I will run this for you, and I'll make sure it's great. So that's what we agreed on, and we started. So the ad budget was $300. He paid me $500, so it was great. It was my first client, so I was like, let's do it. So after that, he's still my client today. So we're a little bit higher up in the money because I had to work him up, more money because, hey, I'm giving you results, so I need more money to give you more results and more money for me. So it's a win-win, especially with real estate. So I was excited. So that was the meeting, and that's how I closed them. We signed a contract, and in the future, I'm going to be making a contract for YouTube, not for YouTube, but for you guys. I'm going to be creating a contract that you guys can use that is the same contract I use to give to clients. So you'll have a contract. You will have to look it up legally because I can't guarantee you a legal contract because I am not a lawyer. So you have to have legal advice on it because I am not allowed to give legal advice on contracts because I am not a lawyer. So be sure to get it legalized. Let a lawyer look it over. But I've used it multiple times, so that's my advice. Get a lawyer, but I've used it, so it's your choice. But I always suggest that you get a lawyer first to look it over, to make sure it's legally binding, which in another video I'll go over the difference between why a contract is legally binding and why it is not. And there's 4 things you need to make it legally binding. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so do not take me as legal advice. You have to talk to a lawyer and get it legalized. So that's it with the contract. But I won't be making a video about how I made my contract later. So we just went through the 2 phases of getting a client. So the first one is initially directly talking to them or trying to contact them in some way. The next one's the meeting phase. The last part is performing. So after all that, you have to perform for the client and you have to run ads for them, whether it's posting every day. And for me, I did posting every day. So for 30 days, I had to post every single day, which I don't recommend. It's really daunting. It's really boring. and it sucks the life out of you because you have to make 30 posts. They have to be pretty good. They have to get traffic in, and it can be really, really boring. So I suggest that you only try to run ads for somebody, but at the beginning you should do it both. And for your first client, you should do the hard work, the grunt work. So you need to be posting every day, and you need to be running ads for that person. So once you get used to it, it's a lot easier. So that is how I got my first client, my first real estate client that I was really, really happy about. And now I use that case study because I did really well for that client. I was able to sell 3 houses using ads for 30 days. So that client was getting anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 per house, depending on the percentage of commission that person received. So it was great. We still have a great relationship of me being the social media marketer and him being the client, and we still are doing really great. So I'm excited to get more clients and tell you guys more about my story. So again, my name is Chris. Please like and subscribe, and I'm going to leave some links for my other videos. One video is how you begin your social media marketing agency to getting it from $0, big O zero, to a 6-figure agency. And I'm going to be posting a lot more videos to help you guys out. So I hope you guys come back, watch my videos, check them out, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to get more notifications on more future videos that I'm going to be posting, so you guys can be the first ones to view it. Again, my name is Chris Lann, and I hope to see you guys again. Have a great day.